Okay. Day 40?
Day 40.
Day 40?
Yep.
First chapter of The Law of Success from the 1925 Manuscript Lessons, Napoleon Hill.
Have you been making videos this whole time?
Pretty much. By and large, there is no such thing as something for nothing. In the long run, you get exactly for which you pay, whether you are buying an automobile or a loaf of bread. It's pretty simple. So, the first chapter is going to run from page 25 to, from 25 to 40, so it's about 15 pages. See how long it takes us to get through it. We had about 45 minutes as far as our session. So 15 by 45 times 3, it's about 3 minutes a page. We should be able to do that.
Okay.
So, read the left quote on the book, and then you go ahead and go.
Who told you it couldn't be done, and what great achievement has he to his credit that qualifies him to judge your ability?
To judge, what qualifies anybody else to judge your ability? Nothing. They have no authority over your particular ability. That is your God-given divine gifts.
Okay. Lesson 1, a definite purpose. The keynote of this entire lesson may be found in the word definite.
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 Key word.
It is most appalling to know that 95% of the people of the world are drifting aimlessly through life without the slightest conception of the work for which they are best fitted, and with no conception whatsoever of even the need of such a thing as a definite objective towards which to strive.
A definite objective towards which to strive. Go ahead on, girl.
There is a psychological as well as an economic reason for the selection of a definite purpose in life.
Okay.
Let us devote our attention to the psychological side of the question first.
All right.
It is a well-established principle of psychology that a person's acts are always in harmony with the dominating thoughts of his or her mind.
I actually have that highlight. Well, I have that underlined. I think it's worth repeating. It is a well-established principle of psychology that a person's acts are always in harmony with the dominating thoughts of his or her mind. Key point.
Definite purpose that is deliberately fixed in the mind and held there with the determination to realize it finally saturates the entire subconscious mind until it automatically influences the physical action of the body towards the attainment of that purpose. Your definite purpose in life should be selected with deliberate care, and after it has been selected, it should be written out and placed where you will see it at least once a day. The psychological effect of which is to impress this purpose upon your subconscious mind so strongly that it accepts that purpose as a pattern or blueprint that would eventually dominate your activities in life and lead you step by step toward the attainment of the object back of that purpose. The principle of psychology through which you can impress your definite purpose upon your subconscious mind is called autosuggestion, or suggestion which you repeatedly make to yourself. It is a degree of self-hypnotism, but do not be afraid of it on that account, for it was the same principle through the aid of which Napoleon lifted himself from the lowly station of a poverty-stricken Corsican to the dictatorship of France. I don't know what Corsican means.
Corsican, you have your computer over there?
I have my computer.
You forgot your computer?
I forgot I had it.
Oh.
Behind me.
I've never heard a researcher say, I forgot I had my computer. You're a researcher. Don't forget your computer.
Of course. Actually,
Corsican.
Native of Corsica, the language of Corsica. It originated as a dialect of Italian.
Okay.
Okay. From the lowly station of a poverty-stricken Corsican to the dictatorship of France.
Okay.
It was through the aid of the same principle that Thomas A. Edison has risen from the lowly beginning of a news butcher to where he is accepted as the leading inventor of the world.
Leading inventor of the world. You know, if you didn't know, Thomas Edison actually started GE, General Electric, that is still around today, that is a international, multinational conglomerate of a company. I think they have some over 300,000 employees or something like that. They're still on the Dow 30, by the way. It was through the aid of this same principle that Lincoln bridged the mighty chasm between his lowly birth in a log cabin in the mountains of Kentucky and the presidency of the greatest nation on earth. It was through the aid of the same principle that Theodore Roosevelt became one of the most aggressive leaders that ever occupied the presidency of the United States. You need have no fear of the principle of autosuggestion as long as you are sure that the objective for which you are striving is one that will bring you happiness of an enduring nature. Be sure that your definite purpose is constructed, that its attainment will bring hardship and misery to no one, that it will bring you peace and prosperity. Then apply to the limit of your understanding the principle of self-suggestion for the speedy attainment of this purpose. On the street corner just opposite to the room in which I am writing, I see a man who stands there all day long and sells peanuts. He is busy every minute. When not actually engaged in making a sale, he is roasting and packing peanuts in a little bag. He is one of the great army of constituting the 95% who have no definite purpose in life. He is selling peanuts not because he likes that work better than anything else he might do, but because he never sat down and thought out a definite purpose that would bring him greater returns for his labor. He is selling peanuts because he is a drifter on the sea of life, and one of the tragedies of his work is the fact that the same amount of effort that he puts into it, if directed along the lines, will bring him much greater returns. Another one of the tragedies of this man's work is the fact that he is unconsciously making use of the principle of self-suggestion, but he is doing it to his own advantage. No doubt if a picture could be made of his thoughts, there would be nothing in that of a crowd of people buying peanuts. The man could get out of his peanut business if he had the vision of the ambition of the first imagine himself in a more profitable calling, and the perseverance to hold on to that picture before his mind until it influenced him to take the necessary steps to enter a more profitable calling. He put sufficient labor into his work to bring him a substantial return, and the labor were direct toward the attainment of a definite purpose that offered bigger returns. One of my closest personal friends is one of the best-known writers and public speakers of this country. About 10 years ago, he caught sight of the possibilities of this principle of self-suggestion and began immediately to harness and put it to work. He worked out a plan for its application that proved to be very effective. At that time, he was neither a writer nor a speaker. I just want to say this and interject real quick. I think it's interesting how the difference between Think and Grow Rich and The Laws of Success, how Napoleon Hill literally starts off the book talking about autosuggestion and the importance of having a definite purpose, which in Think and Grow Rich is called a definite chief aim, or desire. I think it's actually the chapter on desire. Yes, it's the first chapter on desire. But as far as speaking about definite purpose, he comes out the gate talking about autosuggestion and literally the conscious versus the subconscious mind and how to hold that thought there. Say again?
And getting what you give.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think he mentions that in the first chapter of Think and Grow.
Yeah, basically getting what you give is basically the law of compensation, essentially.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay. Each night, just before going to sleep, he would shut his eyes and see in his imagination a long council table which he placed in his imagination certain well-known men whose characteristics he wished to absorb into his own personality. He didn't mention this part until like the end of the book. At the end of the table, he wished to absorb into his own person. At the end of the table, he placed Lincoln, and on either side of the table, he placed Napoleon, Washington, Emerson, and Elbert Hubbard. He then proceeded. He then proceeded to talk to these imaginary figures that he had seated at his imaginary council table, something after this manner.
Hold on real quick. I think it's interesting how if Emerson is good enough for Napoleon Hill, it's good enough for us. We just finished reading Emerson's Self-Reliance prior to this. I just wanted to point that out, by the way.
Mr. Lincoln, I desire to build in my own character those qualities of patience and fairness toward all mankind and the keen sense of humor which were your outstanding characteristics. I need these qualities, and I shall not be contented until I have developed them. Mr. Washington, I desire to build in my own character those qualities of patriotism and self-sacrifice and leadership which were your outstanding characteristics. Mr. Emerson, I desire to build in my own character those qualities of vision and the ability to interpret the laws of nature as written in the rocks of prison walls and growing trees and flowing brooks and growing flowers and the faces of little children, which were your outstanding characteristics. Napoleon. I desire to build in my own character those qualities of self-reliance and the strategic ability to master obstacles and profit by mistakes and develop strength out of defeat. Which were your outstanding characteristics. Mr. Hubbard. I desire to develop the ability to equal and even to excel the ability that you possessed with which to express yourself in a clear, concise, and forceful language. Night after night for many months, this man saw these men seated around that imaginary council table until finally he had imprinted their outstanding characteristics upon his own subconscious mind so clearly that he began to develop a personality which was a composite of their personalities. The subconscious mind may be likened to a magnet, and when it has been vitalized and thoroughly saturated with any definite purpose, it has a decided tendency to attract all that is necessary for the fulfillment of that purpose. Like attracts like, and you may see evidence of this law in every blade of grass and every growing tree. And then the quote: a good encyclopedia contains most of the known facts.
That's on a different page.
No, it's not.
All right.
What are you talking about? Oh, so it's your quote? Because it's on the whatever. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your quote.
You wanted that quote, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to say that I had underlined the subconscious mind may be likened to a magnet, and when it has been vitalized and thoroughly saturated with any definite purpose, it has a decided tendency to attract all that is necessary for the fulfillment of that purpose.
I was going to talk about that too. I'm glad you brought it up again. That's like that 10 on that quiz, that 100 that I thought I didn't get, but I got for whatever reason. That's like the 10 extra points on that. 15 extra points actually on, 10 on that history exam that I got an 80 on. Those 10 extra credit points for taking each survey. Yeah.
There you go. A good encyclopedia contains most of the known facts of the world, but they are useless as sand dunes until organized and expressed in terms of action.
Like you said, knowledge is not power until you act with it.
There you go. The acorn attracts from the soil and the air necessary materials out of which to grow an oak tree. It never grows a tree that is part of an oak and part poplar. Every grain of wheat that is planted in the soil attracts the materials out of which to grow a stalk of wheat. It never makes a mistake and grows both oats and wheat on the same stalk. And men are subject also to the same law of attraction. Go into any cheap boarding house district in any city where you will find people of the same general trend of mind associated together. On the other hand, go into any prosperous community and you will find people of the same general tendencies associated together. Men who are successful always seek the company of others who are successful, while men who are on the ragged side of life always seek the company of those who are in similar circumstances. Misery does love company. Water seeks its level with no finer certainty than man seeks the company of those who occupy his own general stage financially and mentally. A professor of Yale University and an illiterate hobo have nothing in common. They would be miserable if thrown together for any great length of time. Oil and water mix as readily as will men who have nothing in common. All of which leads up to this statement, that you will attract to you people who harmonize with your own philosophy of life, whether you wish it or not. This being true, can you not see the importance of vitalizing your mind with a definite purpose that will attract to you the people who will be of help to you and not hindrance? Suppose your definite purpose is far above your present station in life. What of it? It is your privilege, nay, your duty, to aim high in life. You owe it to yourself and to the community in which you live to set a high standard for yourself. There is much evidence to justify the belief that nothing within reason is beyond your possibility of attainment by the man whose definite purpose has been well. Some years ago, Louis Victor Eitinge was given a life sentence in the Arizona penitentiary. At the time of his imprisonment, he was an all-around developed bad man, according to his own admissions. In addition to this, it was believed that he would die of tuberculosis within a year. Edge had reason to feel discouraged, if anyone had. Public feeling against him was intense, and he did not have a single friend in the world who came forth and offered him encouragement or help. Then something happened in his own mind that gave him back his health, put the dreaded white plague to rout, and finally unlocked the prison gates and gave him his freedom.
So I underlined the part that said that you will attract to you people who harmonize with your own philosophy of life, whether you wish it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really like after whatever time that was that we had lunch,
Mm-hmm.
like that's pretty much where it began, because then we just started talking like every day, and I don't think we really intended that.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of happened. And
Yeah.
it led to this. 40 days.
40 days later.
No position in life can be secure, and no achievement can be permanent unless built upon truth and justice. What was that something? Just this. He made up his mind to whip the white plague and regain his health. That was a very definite purpose. In less than a year from the time the decision was made, he had won. Then he extended that definite purpose by making up his mind to gain his freedom. Soon the prison walls melted from around him, and he is now a respected citizen and holding down a position in New York City that pays him $10,000 a year. No undesirable environment is strong enough to hold the man or woman who understands how to apply the principle of autosuggestion and the creation of a definite purpose.
I just need to stop you there and make sure that you do underline that. You have a pen or a pencil? Pen. It doesn't matter. But I will definitely repeat that for your benefit. No undesirable environment is strong enough. Let me say that part again. No undesirable environment is strong enough to hold the man or woman who understands how to what? Apply the principle of autosuggestion in this creation of a definite purpose.
That's how I got off track. My autosuggestion, not doing my statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Such a person can throw off the shackles of poverty, destroy the most deadly disease germs, rise from a lowly station in life to power and plenty. All great leaders place their leadership upon a definite purpose. Followers are willing followers when they know that their leader is a person with definite purpose, who has the courage to back up that purpose with action.
I had that underlined as well. If you're going to be a leader, just know you need a definite purpose.
And the courage to back up that purpose.
And the courage to back it up. And it's not just you that must have the definite purpose. Other people must believe in that courage.
But even if you have the purpose, you have to have the courage.
Gotta have it.
Even a balky horse knows when a driver with a definite purpose takes hold of the reins and yields to that driver. When a man with a definite purpose starts through a crowd, everybody stands aside and makes a way for him. But let a man hesitate and show by his actions that he is not sure which way he wants to go, and the crowd will step all over his toes and refuse to budge an inch out of the way.
Those two, is that two sentences? No, that's just one sentence. Yeah, I have that entire sentence underlined as well. I'm going to need you to keep a little more. I mean, you have to go back and make notes to underline it and go back and underline it on your own time. Let's keep going.
Nowhere is the lack of a definite purpose more noticeable or more detrimental than it is in the relationship between a parent and child. Children sense very quickly the wavering attitude of their parents and take advantage of that attitude quite freely. It is the same all through life. Men with a definite purpose command respect and attention at all times.
I have that underlined as well.
You do that.
Mm-hmm.
So much for the psychological viewpoint of a definite purpose. Let us now turn to the economic side of the question. If a steamship lost its rudder in mid-ocean and began circling around, it would soon exhaust its fuel supply without reaching shore, despite the fact that it would use up enough energy to carry it to shore and back several times. The man who labors without a definite purpose that is backed up by a definite plan for its attainment resembles a ship that has lost its rudder. Hard labor and good intentions are not sufficient to carry a man through to success. For how may a man be sure that he has attained success unless he has established in his mind some definite object that he wishes?
The man who has labors without a definite purpose that is backed by a definite plan for attainment resembles the ship that has lost its rudder. Have that underlined. Very powerful. Every well-built house starts in the form of a definite purpose plus a definite plan in the nature of a set of blueprints. Imagine what would happen if one tried to build a house by the haphazard method without plans. Workmen would be in each other's way, building material would be piled all over the lot before the foundation was completed, and everybody on the job would have a different notion as to how the house ought to be built. Result chaos and misunderstandings and costs that would be prohibitive. Yet, had you ever stopped to think that most people finish school, take up employment, and enter a trade or profession without the slightest conception of anything that remotely resembles a definite purpose or a definite plan? In view of the fact that science has provided reasonably accurate ways and means of analyzing character and determining the life work for which people are best fitted, does it not seem a modern tragedy that 95% of the adult population of the world is made up of men who are failures because they have not found their proper niches in the world's work? If success depends upon power, and if power is organized effort, and if the first step in the direction of organization is a definite purpose, then one may easily see why a purpose is essential. I have that underlined. Until a man selects a definite purpose in life, he dissipates his energies and spreads his thoughts over many subjects and in so many different directions that they lead not to power but to indecision and weakness. That's underlined as well. With the aid of a small reading glass, you can teach yourself a great lesson on the value of organized effort. Through the use of such a glass, you can focus on the sun rays on a definite spot and so strongly that they will burn a hole through a plank. Remove the glass, which represents a definite purpose, and the same rays of sun may shine on that plank for 1,000,000 years without burning it. 1,000 electric dry batteries, when properly organized and connected together with wires, will produce enough power to run a good-sized piece of machinery for several hours. But take the same cells singly, disconnected, and not one of them would exert enough energy to turn the machinery over once. The faculties of your mind might properly be likened to those dry cells. When you organize your faculties according to the plan laid out in the 15 lessons of this reading course on the law of success and direct them toward the attainment of a definite purpose in life, you then take advantage of the cooperative and accumulative principle out of which power is developed, which is called organized effort. I have the last part of that underlined.
Andrew Carnegie's advice was this. Place all your eggs in one basket and then watch the basket to see that no one kicks it over. In that advice, he meant, of course, that we should not dissipate any of our energies by engaging in sidelines. Carnegie was a sound economist, and he knew that most men would do well if they so harnessed and directed their energies that some one thing would be done well. When the plan back of this reading course was first born, I remember taking the first manuscript to a professor of the University of Texas, and in a spirit of enthusiasm, I suggested to him that I had discovered a principle that would be of aid to me in every public speech I delivered thereafter, because I would be better prepared to organize and marshal my thoughts. He looked at the outline of 15 points for a few minutes, and then turned to me and said, "Yes, your discovery is going to help you make better speeches, but that is not all it will do. It will help you become a more effective writer, for I have noticed in your previous writings a tendency to scatter your thoughts. For instance, if you started to describe a beautiful mountain yonder in the distance, you would be apt to sidetrack your description. By calling attention to a beautiful bed of wild flowers, or a running brook, or a singing bird, detouring here and there, in zigzag fashion, before finally arriving at the proper point from which to view the mountain. In the future, you are going to find it much less difficult to describe an object, whether you are speaking or writing, because your 15 points represent the very foundation of organization." A man who had no legs once met a man who was blind. To prove conclusively that the lame man was a man of vision, he proposed to the blind man that they form an alliance that would be of great benefit to both. "You let me climb upon your back," said to the blind man, "then I will use your legs, and you may use my eyes. Between the two of us, we will get along more rapidly." Out of allied effort comes great power. This is a point that is worthy of much repetition because it forms one of the most important parts of
The foundation.
This reading course.
Foundation of this reading course. I have that underlined. Out of allied effort comes great power. You got to understand that. If you don't get that, you're shit out of luck. Out of allied effort comes great power. Just like the example goes back whenever he was talking about the batteries being connected singly, and the difference between whenever you have batteries in succession, you can run a large piece of machinery if you so choose. It's the same thing when you have people focusing on the same goal.
Yep.
The great fortunes of the world have been. Oh, excuse me. Let me
Your quote.
read my quote. Over here it says, "Do not tell the world what you can do. Show it." Excuse me. The great fortunes of the world have been accumulated through the use of the principle of allied effort. That which one man may accomplish single-handedly during an entire lifetime is meager at best, but no matter how well organized a man may be. But that which one may accomplish through the principle of alliance with other men is practically without limitation. The mastermind to which Carnegie referred during my interview with him was made up of more than a score of minds. In that group of men, practically every temperament and inclination. Each man was there to play a certain part, and he did nothing else. There was a perfect understanding and teamwork between these men. It was Carnegie's business to keep harmony among them. If you are familiar with the game of football, you know, of course, that winning team is the one with the best coordinates. The winning team is the one that best coordinates the efforts of his players. Teamwork is the thing that wins. It is the same great game of life. In your struggle for success, you should keep constantly in mind the necessity of knowing what it is that you want, of knowing precisely what is your definite purpose, and the value of the principle of organized effort in the attainment of that which constitutes your definite purpose. In a vague sort of way, nearly everyone has a definite purpose, namely the desire for money. But this is not a definite purpose within the meaning of the team it has used in this lesson. Before your purpose can be considered definite, even though that purpose were the accumulation of money, you would have to reach a decision as to the precise method through which you intend to accumulate that money. It would be insufficient for you to say that you would make money by going into some sort of business. You would have to decide what line of business. You would also have to decide where you want to locate. You would also have to decide the business policies under which you conduct your business. In answering these questions, what is your definite purpose in life? That appears in the questionnaire which I have used for the analysis of more than 15,000 people. Many answered about as follows. My definite purpose is life to be as much service to the world as possible and earn a good living. The answer is about definite as the frog's conception of the size of the universe is accurate. The objective of this reading course on the law of success is not to inform you as to what your life work should be, for indeed, this could be done with accuracy only after you have been completely analyzed. But the course is intended as a means of impressing upon your mind a clear conception of the value of a definite purpose of some nature, and of the value of understanding the principles of organized effort as a means of attaining the necessary power with which to materialize your definite purpose. So I must say that as we go back in page 35, I have underlined, you will have to reach a decision as to the precise method through which you intend to accumulate that money, and then all the way down up until it says, in answer the question. I thought that was very powerful, because basically the concept there was you have to think further into whatever you decide that you want to do. There's always more questions to be answered, and whatever you don't answer as far as details is something that could potentially not only go wrong, but could be a snag or a snafu in the plan. So, having said that.
Okay. There's some one thing that you can do better than anybody else in the world could do it. Didn't TV Jake say that yesterday?
Mm-hmm. He did.
Search until you find out what this particular line of endeavor is. Then organize all of your forces and attack it with the belief that you are going to win. In your search for the work which you are best fitted, it will be well if you bear in mind the fact that you will most likely attain greatest success by finding out what work you like best. For it is a well-known fact that the man generally best succeeds in the particular line of endeavor in which he can throw his whole heart and soul. Let us go back for the sake of clarity and emphasis to the psychological principles upon which this lesson is founded, because it will mean a loss that you can ill afford if you fail to grasp the real reason for establishing a definite purpose in your mind. These principles are as follows. First, every voluntary movement of the human body is caused, controlled, and directed by thought through the operation of the mind. Second, The presence of any thought or idea in your conscious tends to produce an associated feeling and to urge you to transform that feeling into appropriate muscular action that is in perfect harmony with the nature of the thought. For example, if you think of winking your eyelid and there are no counter influences or thoughts in your mind at the time to arrest action, the motor nerve will carry your thought from the seat of government in your brain, and appropriate or corresponding muscular action takes place immediately. Stating this principle from another angle, you choose, for example, a definite purpose as your life work and make up your mind that you will carry out that purpose. From the very moment that you make this choice, this purpose becomes the dominating thought in your consciousness, and you are constantly on the alert for facts in and knowledge with which you to achieve that purpose.
I have that. It's italicized in the book, and I have that italicis underlined as well. From time to time that you plant a definite purpose in your mind begins both consciously and unconsciously to gather and store away the material with which you are to accomplish that purpose. Desire is the factor which determines what your definite purpose in life shall be. No one can select your dominating desire for you, but once you select it yourself, it becomes your definite purpose and occupies the spotlight of your mind until it is satisfied by the transformation into reality, unless you permit it to be pushed aside by conflicting desires. To emphasize this principle, I am here trying to make clear I believe in it not unreasonable to suggest that to be sure of successful achievement, one's definite purpose in life should be backed up with a burning desire for its achievement. So first it's a definite purpose, and then you have a burning desire for the achievement of that definite purpose. I have noticed that boys and girls who enter college and pay their way through by working seem to get more out of the schooling than those whose expenses are paid for them. The secret of this may be found in the fact that those who are willing to work their way through are blessed with a burning desire for education, and such a desire is the object of the desire, in which is within reason, is practically sure of realization. You remember when I asked you who taught you how to study? If you'd have been paying it for yourself, you'd have figured that shit out by yourself. Just being 100 with you. Whenever you gotta pay for it yourself, there's a different level of commitment. Science has established beyond the slightest room for doubt that through the principle of autosuggestion, any deeply rooted desire saturates the entire body and mind with the nature of the desire and literally transforms the mind into a powerful magnet that will attract the object of the desire, if it be written within reason. For the enlightenment of those who might not properly interpret the meaning of the statement, I will endeavor to state the principle in another way. For example, merely desiring an automobile will not cause the automobile to be rolling in, but if there is a burning desire for an automobile, that desire will lead to the appropriate action through which an automobile may be paid for. Merely desiring freedom would never release a man who was confined in prison if it were not sufficiently strong cause to him. If it were not sufficiently strong cause him to do something to entitle himself to freedom. Louis Victor Eitinge would no doubt be in the Arizona State Prison today if his desire for freedom had not driven him to make the necessary reformation in his own heart to entitle him to his freedom. These are steps leading from the desire to fulfillment. First, the burning desire, then the crystallization of that desire into a definite purpose, then sufficient appropriate action to achieve that purpose. You know what? I just realized a grammatical error. Than should be then. On page 39. Who's the publisher of this book? View Publishing. That's okay. There may be an error too in my book, so I'm not gonna knock you. But yeah, there's an error right there on page 39.
Okay.
Was that mine? No, that's your quote.
Which one? Oh yeah. That's my quote.
Anyway.
Anyone can start, but only the thoroughbred will finish.
Did
you say remember that to these 3 steps?
No, I did not.
Remember that these 3 steps are always necessary to ensure success.
I probably should have said that.
Probably. I once knew a very poor girl who had a burning desire for a wealthy husband, and she finally got him, but not without having transformed that desire into the development of a very attractive personality, which in turn attracted the desired husband. I once had a burning desire to be able to accurately analyze character, and that desire was so persistent and so deeply seated that it practically drove me into 10 years of research and study of men and women. George Parker makes one of the best fountain pens in the world, and despite the fact that his business is conducted from the little city of Janesville, Wisconsin, he has spread his product all the way around the globe, and he has his pen on sale in every civilized country in the world. More than 20 years ago, Mr. Parker's definite purpose was established in his mind, and that purpose was to produce the best fountain pen that money could buy. He backed that purpose with a burning desire for its realization, and if you carry a fountain pen, the chances are that you have evidence in your own possession that it has brought him abundant success. You are a contractor and a builder, and like men who build houses out of mere wood and brick and steel, you must draw up a set of plans after which to shape your success building. You are living in a wonderful age where the materials that go into success are plentiful and cheap. You have at your disposal in the archives of the public libraries the carefully compiled results of 2,000 years of research covering practically every possible line of endeavor in which one would wish to engage. If you would become a preacher, you would have at hand the entire history of what has been learned by men who have preceded you in this field. If you would become a mechanic, you have at hand the entire history of the inventions of machines and the discovery and usages of metal and the things metallic in nature. If you would become a lawyer, you have had at your disposal the entire history of law procedure. Through the Department of Agriculture at Washington, you have at your disposal all that has been learned about farming and agriculture, where you may use it should you wish to find your life work in this field. The world was never so resplendent with opportunity as it is today. On every other hand, there is an ever-increasing demand for services of the man or woman who makes a better mousetrap, or performs a better stenograph service, or preaches a better sermon, and digs a better ditch or runs a more accommodating bank.
Okay. This lesson will not be complete until you shall have made your choice as to what your definite purpose in life is to be, and then recorded a description of that purpose in writing and placed it in writing and placed it where you may see it every morning when you arise and every night when you retire. Procrastination is, but why preach about it? You know that you are the hewer of your own wood and the drawer of your own water and the shaper of your own definite purpose in life. Therefore, why dwell upon that which you already know? A definite purpose is something that you must create for yourself. No one will create it for you, and it will not create itself. What are you going to do about it, and when, and how? Start now to analyze your desires and find out what it is that you wish. Then make up your mind to get it. Lesson 2 will point out to you the next step and to show you how to proceed. So, as far as the definite purpose in life, I think one thing that's Napoleon Hill was missing out is basically how to determine your not only your values, but what's most important to you. One of the most difficult things it is for people to understand about themselves and what they want to do with their lives is literally what they want. To decide what you really and truly want and what's most important to you is difficult. It's a difficult process to go through and to make that decision, because that's where a lot of your focus is going to go. So it's definitely a critical decision, and it's one that takes some time, but typically your life will demonstrate it. Your life will demonstrate what's most important to you, but by how you spend your time and who you spend your time with. And so once you start looking at those things, you can more or less peer into an area or a way of proceeding forward as far as what you really and truly want to do with your particular life as it relates. So that is the chapter on definite purpose.
Cool, man.
And I like it. I love it. I want some more of it.
I was about to say that.